Yankees fans, welcome back to Fireside Yankees, where passion meets the numbers and gut feelings go head-to-head with cold, hard stats. We break down every move, every at-bat, and every front office decision with the same intensity you guys bring to the Bronx. Love it, hate it, feel it in your soul. We're right there with you. If you ride with us, do us a favor, drop a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. It helps more diehard fans like yourselves find the show. We appreciate that very, very much. Let's dive into something that we want to discuss today, Ryan. Ben Rice. Ben Rice looks jacked. 10 pounds of muscle mass this young guy has added to his frame. And, he had 2 balls on the warning track last year that should have been home runs. And we think that little bit of extra power he's added this offseason can really, increase the power there. He did have some good numbers and barrel percentages and whatnot. And we think that the underlying metrics do suggest that he could be a very solid player. I know last year over 50 games didn't look great. Had a 73 WRC plus, so he was quite well below average. But this is a player that's destroyed every minor league level, Ryan. Every single step of the way in his progression to the majors, he has had a dominant performance, and that's kind of where I sit and say, it's going to click for Ben Rice. It's going to click for him. He's going to get there. I really don't think that it's an outside chance anymore that he gets to a point where he is an above average offensive player. I think it's just a matter of when, how long it's going to take to get there, and really what his role is for this Yankee team. So I want to get your perspective on Ben Rice. I have a little back and forth here on this player and really what he's going to bring to the team in 2025.
Yeah, look, Ben Rice is someone who last year kind of had that warning track power. You look at his spray chart, you look at the batted balls, you look at the fly balls, and you see a lot of batted balls that just die short of the wall. I tracked 6 fly balls, not even counting balls that were doubles that could have been home runs. We're just looking strictly at flyouts and 1 sac fly in that group. And if those batted balls were home runs, and I understand that all of them would be home runs, but just using the thought experiment here, he would have had 13 home runs in 50 games with a 500 slugging percentage and an 803 OPS. So let's kind of peel back the layers a little bit. Where does added muscle play into batted ball data or ball traveling or all that stuff? Well, the stronger you are, the harder you hit the ball, the more bat speed you have, the easier it is for you to put a little more of a charge into the ball. So does it result automatically in just hitting home runs? No, right? You can't just say that a guy adds muscle, they're going to be a better player. You have to stay healthy. You have to continue to have a good process at the plate. Raw strength does not always equal better player, although that is a tangible skill you can improve and one that does have an effect on your batted ball data. So it's being, all right, this is a good change for the player, a good step forward for the player, but it is one that has to then result in, results. So, Alex, it is encouraging to hear that he built muscle because I feel like we know he can hit the ball hard, but it wasn't, 70 grade power, more like 60 grade power. Can that jump to that 65, maybe 70 grade power? Then you can start seeing Ben Rice be a guy who can tap into that center field power, maybe oppo power. I believe it was reported by Jake Mintz of Yahoo Sports that Ben Rice had hit a ball off the scoreboard in George M. Steinbrenner Field. George M. Steinbrenner Field has its scoreboard in left center field. So, that's an opposite field bomb, right? That's what was reported, that he hit an opposite field just nuke. If that is part of his skill set, and that's something we've seen him flash at the minor league level, but not really tap into in the big leagues because it hasn't had the distance, it hasn't had the oomph. He's gotten a little bit unlucky in that regard. That could be a game changer. So, look, with Giancarlo Stanton's situation in kind of a weird spot, Alex, it's hard to understate the importance of Ben Rice having a big year, or at least a good year. I'm not saying he's got to win MVP, but being a productive major league player, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think there is definitely a productive player in Ben Rice. The question is, what is his role on this team? Right now, Giancarlo Stanton, as you mentioned, it could be out for a couple of weeks, if not a couple of months. We don't even know, what the situation is in terms of, is he going to be out for half the season? Aaron Judge, that quote from Judge did not make me feel so good, Ryan, in the sense that he was like, I just want Big G healthy at the midway point this year. That doesn't sound like Giancarlo Stanton's going to be healthy in the first half of the season. So who's the DH? I think in a perfect world, Ben Rice is your DH. He bats every day, and he's getting reps every single day. What do you think about that? I personally think that might be the best option for the Yankees at this point in time.
I think it's a really good point to make that Rice getting reps and Rice getting action at the DH spot is something that will be productive for this team. I also think the fact that he went back to New York for personal issues, that being stated, raises a little more alarm bells than the elbow thing, because I don't know what's up now. Now we have no idea what's going on, and now you're kind of in limbo and in flux. And I obviously wish all the best to Giancarlo Stanton. I hope things go well and that he's okay. But until then, you have to work with what you got, and Ben Rice is what you got right now. So, Alex, I think these reps are going to be uber important for Ben Rice's future, for his career, and not that I want him to feel a level of pressure, but this may be his window. We've talked about it with prospects. You get your window, you get your window, you get your window. These injuries are your window. When Garrett Cole went down, Luis Seal took that job and ran with it. Now he's going to be in the rotation if he's healthy. If you look at even someone like a Clark Schmidt, injuries are what opened up his spot in 2023. He stayed healthy. He did enough to show that, he was a step away or a tweak away from being that guy, and then now he's a permanent starter in this rotation again when healthy. Opportunity is luck is opportunity meets preparation, and Ben Rice, not to say he got lucky because Stan's hurt, but this is something that wasn't planned on. The Yankees weren't planning on having Ben Rice be their DH or play every single day to start the year. They were planning on having Austin Wells start every day and Giancarlo Stanton start every day. Now this definitely opens up the door a little bit for Rice to get reps at DH, and it's an important step in his career. I think it's a double-edged sword because on one hand, you want Stanton healthy, but on the other, this is definitely an interesting development for Ben Rice, and it'll give the Yankees some much-needed information on the player and the player they have in Rice and potentially what he can contribute going forward.
Absolutely, and just getting these reps and at-bats now is going to serve the Yankees well in 2026 because, well, to be quite frank, Paul Goldschmidt's on a one-year deal, guys. Like, what's the plan at first base next season? The perfect plan is Ben Rice taking over that job and giving you league average defense and a good bat. Like, that is what best case scenario looks like. And you look at some of these great offensive players throughout their careers, and it's been ups and downs. They start slow, they get better over time. They just need the reps, and not every offensive player walks into the league like Juan Soto and is just a generational talent. It's a rarity. It's unusual, and I think that the Yankees should not expect that from Ben Rice. We should expect him to struggle, expect him to hit those blocks. And look, we made the World Series last year, and he played 50 games in 2024. You know what I mean? I think that he should be every single at-bat that's available for DH, as long as it's not a lefty on the mound, should be going to Ben Rice. Because what we've seen from him at the minor league level suggests that there is a well above average offensive player in there. And adding 10 pounds of muscle mass, short right portion of the Bronx, the swing is tailor-made. And you mentioned it, the flashing of oppo power. Guys, I'll give you some insight into kind of like how good this player was. Last year in AAA, he had a 174 WRC plus. That means he was 74% above average. In AA, he was 55% above average. In 2023 in AA, he was 82% above average. In High A, he was 105% above average. This is a player that's been a minimum of 55% average at every single level he's played at. Now, it doesn't mean jack booty to what he's going to do at the major league level, Ryan. However, it's taken him a little time, and when he adjusts, he sticks. It sticks. The talent sticks when he gets it all figured out. This is just a guy that last year he was getting inconsistent at-bats. He wasn't playing every day all the time. It was this, it was that. He was sent back to the minors. He's been all around. He's needs to be trusted. And I think that as that backup DH, as that backup first baseman, and he kind of has some weird utility value, in my opinion, in terms of being a backup catcher and a backup first baseman. He can, kill two birds with one stone for the Yankees, right? He can be that backup to both spots, assuming his defense is good enough at the catcher position. Yet to be seen. But how do you feel about that in terms of his utility value? Do you think he could be the backup catcher and first baseman while offering you a good solution at DH if Stanton misses time?
Absolutely, and it's a kind of unique level of versatility here. You rarely see a catcher who can play multiple positions or provide in multiple areas, but Ben Rice can do that, and that kind of versatility does matter to this roster and this lineup because there are a lot of question marks at first base, now at DH, and you want to make sure you can get Wells off of his feet every now and then. I do wonder if the Yankees have Austin Wells DH occasionally, or if they just kind of give him the full off day. That'll be an interesting storyline to watch. I don't think the Yankees DH'd Austin Wells once last year, so I I wonder if that's a comfortability thing, if that's something that they do ever want to add to their toolbox. Again, that's TBD. And then again, we talk about first base, Goldschmidt, giving him a day off, maybe letting Goldschmidt DH for a day. On days where Judge DHs and you have, let's say, Rice play first, you're facing a tough right-handed pitcher, et cetera, et cetera. That roster versatility does matter, Alex. It does matter a lot. And, I'll tell you this right now, when you look at kind of constructing your team and trying to replenish the offense you lost in Juan Soto, you're going to need lineup depth. You're going to need power depth. You're going to need to know that, 1 through 9, you've got guys who can be productive in one way or another offensively. You're not going to have 9 above average hitters in your offense. I don't think that that's a fair expectation for really any offense. But can you have 8? Can you have 8? Can you have 7? And can one of them be MVP Aaron Judge? Because if it's that, then you're going to have a pretty good offense. And lineup depth is something that is important. I looked at the opening day lineup last year even. Alex, Yankees had Anthony Volpe hitting 6th, right? So if Volpe's hitting 9th this year, Volpe was a similarly underwhelming hitter to where he was in 2023. Granted, another year older, so that made it a little more disappointing. But I really don't see why, having more lineup depth can't affect this team a lot. And when you look at the youth movement and trying to build your team beyond 2025, Ben Rice being able to be that long-term first baseman or that long-term DH, or kind of that just throw him, stick him at catcher, first DH, whatever you got to do, that's going to have a huge impact on this team's ability to construct the roster moving forward and not have to pay for a first baseman and instead pay for a corner outfield like a Kyle Tucker, pay in the infield for another infielder, maybe a third baseman, make extensions internally and keep guys long-term. There are a lot of things the Yankees can do and will be able to do if Rice pans out as a big leaguer.
Absolutely. If he does pan out as a big leaguer, is a good one. So, I do wonder how he will translate in terms of a larger sample size with his bat. I think he's such a good guy. Like we've spoken to him on social media before, and he's such a good dude. But I'll ask you this: aside from Ben Rice, is there anyone else that piques your interest for the DH role? I know, in a perfect world, Everson Pereira wasn't striking out so much and whiffing so much. He's got really good power, and he showed that in AAA last year. Do you see him as a possible option at DH? Is there anybody else? Maybe, JC Escara, obviously another lefty, good contact guy. So is there someone else that you could see bubbling to the surface here for the DH?
That's a phenomenal question. If it's not Rice, what I would do is I would have Dominguez and Judge split time at DH and right field, and have Grisham play center field. And the reason I would do that is because if I'm not going to get a bat, and look, I don't think Dom Smith is a particularly good hitter, and I will not be convinced otherwise, at least for now, until he does it. It doesn't make sense to have a below average offensive DH when you could have an above average defensive center fielder and just have a really good defensive lineup out there every single day. Because you have Grisham out there, Bellinger in left, and then one of Judge and Jason in right. You have 0 black holes defensively, and you're going to have a lot of Gold Glove caliber defense around your diamond. You're going to prevent runs at a really high clip. I don't know how much you're going to hit. That's definitely the question mark there, but I also don't know how much you're going to hit with Dominic Smith there. Remember, Grisham had a 96 WRC plus last year. Smith had a 96 WRC plus last year. So it's a 5-point WRC plus difference. I'll take the 5-point drop off in WRC plus for what will be a massive improvement defensively. Does it put more pressure on Dominguez, on Wells, on Goldschmidt, on Chisholm, on Volpe, on Grisham himself? Yeah, absolutely. And Bellinger, I don't know if I mentioned him in that group. That definitely puts more pressure on them, but offensively, but even if that group puts up a 106, 107 WRC plus as a group, it's not dominant, but they'll score runs because they're a good base running team, and they'll prevent a lot of runs because they're really good defense and they got a lot of good pitchers. So you can still win games doing it. That's kind of the point. You want to have a team identity. You want to have something that you can do, things you do really well. You want to be a well-rounded ball club, et cetera, et cetera. Trent Grisham stands out to me as someone who at least provides you value on one side of the ball. I'm not sure the value that Dom Smith is going to provide you on either side of the ball. So if it's not Ben Rice at catcher, and I don't really buy into Pereira much as well, at least for right now, maybe things change, I'm going to go with Grisham in center field just because I know he's a major league player. I know he can play at the major league level. Again, if you don't like if you don't like WRC plus and you like batting average, we're just going to naturally disagree on Trent Grisham, but I don't care for batting average very much. I know Grisham hits a lot of home runs. I know he plays great defense, and those are super valuable to me in the 8th or 9th spot in the offense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting. I honestly don't think it's crazy to think JC Escara wins this backup catcher job. The more I keep reading about him, the more they like his defense a lot. Learning from Yadier Molina, and this is just won the Dominican Winter League batting award. interesting player. Very, very interesting player. So, I don't think Ben Rice is the cemented backup catcher. I think that do you think he'll make the roster, like the Major League roster? I think he probably does. Like, it's kind of an unwritten thing that he will make it. Also want to touch on DJ LeMahieu's lack of playing time recently. Do you think he's not ready? What are your thoughts there? Do you think it's a guarantee that Rice makes this roster? And where do you think DJ LeMahieu's offseason's going?
So, in regard to DJ LeMahieu's absence, the Yankees have outright stated they were going to slow play Austin Wells and Aaron Judge. They mentioned that they're going to slow play those guys. They've slow played their pitchers. We're still not even in March. Obviously, the longer season for the Yankees last year has made them a little more weary of using their guys in spring training. It's something that they've talked about extensively. Clark Schmidt mentioned he was having his back issues flare up as a result of the extended postseason run and a longer season than any of these guys have had at their pro careers, basically. But here's the thing, Alex. They haven't mentioned anything about DJ LeMahieu. They haven't said anything about we're slow playing the guy. And, you don't want to take live BP too seriously. Like, Aaron Judge was just bodying Garrett Cole in live BP. The Max Fried got lit up in live BP, I believe. But DJ LeMahieu has looked horrible in live BP. Like, any film that people have had on DJ LeMahieu, he has looked abhorrent. He has looked behind. He has looked slow. And I'm not just referring to that one Randy Miller clip. I'm referring to various other clips. I think it's funny because I know Chris Kirschner kind of pokes fun at himself for it. The possible single video, I thought that was pretty funny. That was a ground ball to second base. That's a DP every single time. And I don't mean this to be just like continue to rag on the guy, but like I don't think the Yankees like him. Not in the sense of like they hate him, but I don't think the Yankees like him as a starter. I don't think the Yankees believe he's very good. I don't think the Yankees want him to play a lot. I don't think the Yankees believe in him very much, and I think that they will add an infielder at some point. I really do not think the Yankees like DJ LeMahieu. It is very interesting and very telling that they have not played him yet. It is very interesting and very telling. Unless again they're slow playing him. It's interesting they haven't mentioned it to the media though. And if you add a third baseman to that prior situation where, let's say Rice isn't the DH and Grisham ends up just play center field most of the time and you kind of like figure it out at DH against left-handed pitching, that is its own disaster in the making. What the Yankees could end up doing is if they add a third baseman, let's say it's a Willie Castro, you feel a little better about your lineup and your ability to kind of go 9 deep without Stanton even. Again, it depends on Rice. What does Rice provide you? Stanton had a 116 WRC plus in the regular season. I'll worry about postseason play if the Yankees get there. But in the regular season, it's 116 is a number to match or beat, right? If Rice is a 115, 110, yeah, you're not really going to miss Stanton very much over that stretch of time. I hope I'm not downplaying what Stanton is, but I'm just specifically talking about the regular season. Postseason-wise, okay, that's a different conversation. I get it. Stanton has been awesome in the playoffs. I don't necessarily know what makes him a playoff riser. I've never spoken to the guy. I wouldn't be able to get into the psyche of Giancarlo Stanton that well, but he's a cold-blooded killer, so I get it. I just think that, the bar for replacing Stanton isn't maybe as high as I thought it would be in the regular season. You'll feel it in the postseason if you don't have him, which is why I think the Yankees are so okay with like, all right, whatever you got to do to keep you healthy, man, we got to do it. I just am concerned because he mentioned it was Boone mentioned it was a personal matter and was not related to the elbow. So not even just like a worried as a baseball fan, as like outlook of the team, like just worried as like a dude who loves Giancarlo Stanton and thinks he's a cool guy. I just hope the best for him. I don't know. I just that whole thing has me. I don't want to speculate too much, but it just has my wheels spinning. I don't really know what's going on there.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to speculate because we just don't know what a personal matter means in his regard. And the elbows are obviously concerning because he still hasn't even been really participating in baseball activity. So best to assume the worst in this instance, but hope for the best. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best type. But, I'll say this, like, the Yankees and DJ LeMahieu, that marriage is coming to an end just because DJ is not that player anymore. And he is very behind. And if he wasn't very behind, he'd be playing because he needs to be competing. Like, that third base job to me is a 2-man race right now, man. Like, it is Peraza and it's Cabrera. Like, that is unfortunately just how it's going for DJ. He's going to end up either being DFA'd or last resort utility man. If the Yankees have a young player rise to the occasion right now, they need on the roster. If they can't afford to let Ben Rice and JC Escara off the roster, DJ LeMahieu is going to get cut. You know what I mean? If they need those extra roster spots, like I get there's 30 million reasons they can't cut him, but like there's just no way out of the situation. Like you can't look. I get that money is annoying because you don't want to have that 30 mil sitting there on the outs. But that roster spot could be more valuable than the money they're wasting. So, like, that's kind of where we cross this red line and say to ourselves, is the player that we're going to get from that roster spot more valuable than DJ LeMay, who is right now? The money doesn't matter. Just think about the pure player. The answer is probably yes. We can get more from JC Escara than DJ LeMay at this point in time. I would even say Escara would give you more value personally.
Yeah, I don't think I just. It's so hard to have the DJ LeMahieu conversation because I just can't find myself coming up with anything positive to say. I don't love having nothing positive to say about a player. It would be a lot nicer and a lot better. And, I get it. Like, I mean, I don't get it, excuse me. I can't understand having the ire of a fan base and basically, like, they all think you suck, and that must suck for him. I sympathize with him on that regard, but he's not good. And, like, the Yankees have put him in that position where he's got to show up to camp every day and try and compete for a job that no one in the fan base wants him to win. Like, no one in the fan base wants to see him play. No one. And no one should want to see him play because he's not good anymore. And that's the reality of it, Alex. That is the reality of it. The guy isn't good. The guy sucks. The guy is bad. And him losing Juan Soto in the same offseason as naming DJ LeMahieu the starting third baseman is not just, like, bad. It's a slap in the face to the fan base. Josh Donaldson was DFA'd for less. Aaron Hicks was DFA'd for less. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't deserve preferential treatment because he's been here a while. This is a business at the end of the day. And the Yankees have made cold-hearted decisions before. It's a little bit like, all right, you're the Yankees, like, winning is your priority. You're still the Yankees, blah, blah, blah. All we want to do is win. You know, Hal mentioned at the presser about the beard thing, my dad would have wanted us to win. That's all he cared about. Well, you don't have a third baseman. So, like, what do you care about? Right? I mean, I'm not saying that Hal doesn't care about winning at all. I mean, the guy does have $307 million invested in his payroll, and that is a lot of money. It's definitely, Hal Steinbrenner is definitely not the worst owner in baseball. He's not in the bottom half of owners. I think he's in the top 10 of owners, just based off of how much money he spends and, you know, how competitive the Yankees are every year. But at the same time, Alex, can't do this like my dad. My dad cared about winning. That's what he would have said. Your dad would have thrown DJ LeMahieu off the team last year. Right, so, you know, don't want to, again, and I'm not like a big, like, oh, if George was here guy. Like, if George never got suspended in the 90s, the Yankees don't go on to win 4 titles in 5 years. They probably trade all their good young players. I mean, he wanted Bernie Williams traded 1 billion times. So, you know, George Steinbrenner isn't a particularly, like, sparkling owner either. He just was super invested in spending money. That might be enough for some fans. Maybe we just want a guy who's going to spend money. We don't care if he's going to meddle with baseball ops. But, you know, I just kind of, the third base conversation looms large here because when you talk about Ben Rice, it feels so unfair to put all the pressure on him to hit when you don't have a third baseman. Because if you had, again, like a 105 WRC plus hitter at third base, a 110 WRC plus from Ben Rice, which is like league average DH production, is a win. And he could do more than that. He could be more than that. I know the upside's there. I know the talent is there. I know the preparation, the hard work, the organization believes in him. I know it's all there. It's just a question of putting it all together. I don't think putting muscle on makes him a good player automatically, but I definitely think it's something that'll help him. Again, it just would be nice to have less pressure placed on him by having a third baseman, someone who can play the position, even someone who can platoon with Oswaldo Cabrera.
Yeah, you know, the last thing I'll say to wrap this episode up, Ryan, is that the underlying metrics last year looked good, right? There's a lot of promise there. You add more bat speed, add more power, barrel it up, more hard hit rate. Theoretically, you should see better results. Theoretically, the results should be better. And that's what we're hoping for. We're hoping that those tweaks in bat speed, battle rates, hard hit percentages translate to more home runs, better slugging, and, you know, supplementing potential long-term absence of Stanton. That's what we're hoping for. And let's be honest, guys. I mean, Stanton's not like he was an excellent regular season performer. He had a 116 WRC plus last year, which is solid. But he had an on-base percentage for 3 straight years of sub 30%. And he was a black hole at times. He'd go weeks, stretches of struggling. And the home runs, they make up for it. But, you know, he is a player on decline. And that playoff run was an anomaly on a much larger scale of decline. So, you know, I'm not saying that Ben Rice is going to replace Stan because I don't think that's true. But he's capable of providing above average offensive contribution. And that's all we can pray for at this point in time if Stan is going to miss time. And I'm of the court Ryan, that I'd rather have Stanton, like Judge, for the second half of the year healthy than get him back now and risk further injury and further irritation to his elbows or whatever the personal matter is. So, that's kind of where I sit and stand. But we'll see how things progress, guys. Always happy to hear your thoughts down below in the YouTube comment section regarding Ben Rice and his developments and his added muscle mass and how you think he can perform, what role you think he can fill. Happy to have a good conversation there. Make sure to like and subscribe as always, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.
Perfect.